place where you stand, through the sky, through the land. Do you hear, do you hear? In the heights on the plain, in the vale on the main, in the sun, in the rain. Do you hear, do you hear? Through the roll, through the rush, through the throng, through the crush. Do you hear in the hush of your soul, of your soul? Hear the cry, fear won't still. Hear the heart's call to will. Hear a sigh, startling thrill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand. Do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear, do you hear? All the dreams, all the dares, all the sights, all the prayers, they are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear, do you hear?
If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am not for others, what am I? And if not now, when?
Please be seated. Good morning. I am Michael, and I'm so grateful that we're gathered here today together. We get to meet once a month together to sing and to pray and just to be present with each other. And then when the service is over, we get to move to the room just yonder beyond that wall where we can have refreshments, make new friends, and revive old ones. In the life and the community of this fellowship, there's some important things to know. In addition to this in-person service, once a month we have a virtual service on the second Sunday via Zoom. And if you'd like to find out more about that, you can go to our website. As a spiritual community of hope, courage, and compassion, we believe that compassion is a fine feeling, but made better when we give it power to actually do good things in the world. This congregation is self-supporting, and due to our generosity, the generosity of our friends and members, we use some of our funds to support a number of organizations. Community First, which is a village in Northeast Austin that provides comprehensive services to homeless people, including permanent housing. The Salvation Army for the Christmas services. Last year we gave in total $5,000 to emergencies around the world. And each quarter we designate a local, well, not always local, the next one's just in Texas, a service group to receive the collection from this meeting. This quarter, it is World Central Kitchen, who you may know from the war in Ukraine, and next quarter it will be Annunciation House, which has been recently spotlighted by our governor. As is our custom, we begin our services with the lighting of a chalice, the symbol of this religious community's of hope, courage, and compassion, and our desire to gather together in this sacred place. Rise up, O flame, by the light glowing, show us the vision, the beauty, and the joy.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
And I invite you now into a spirit of prayer, meditation, just breathing and resting, whatever it is that your practice is. As I read these words, say these words, let the words of your heart be in your mind. You can close your eyes. If it were me, I would be asleep within 5 minutes. But make it so for yourself. And we say together, source of all that is good, source of all we do not understand, source of all that lies between. We come together because we can. Sometimes we come together because we must. Extroverts, introverts, multiverts. We are many identities, and yet we are one species, and our lives are full of wonder, and our lives are full of woe. Someone in this room has wept this week. Someone in the room wants to weep right now. Someone in the room wants to laugh and wants to shout and sing with joy because their weeping is over for now. Some of us don't like to talk about mistakes we have made. In the context of the holy, we don't like to talk about sin or the burdens of guilt because in the past we've been taught that sin and guilt are causes for shame, when in fact they're only the means of our growth. For sin is only missing the mark, and guilt is only the knowledge that we have missed the mark. But we bear this knowledge of that we have caused harm with dignity, not shame, because we're creatures of conscience as well as consciousness. And so in our reflections and meditations, prayer, if that's your practice, I've invited everyone to settle in now. Walk alongside in your mind's eyes the human beings we most revere as prophets of compassion. Human beings like Jesus of Nazareth, Gautama Buddha, Muhammad, peace be unto him. These prophets who seem to come every 600 years ago or so, every axial age, calling us to repent, to turn around, start again. And so I would ask you to bring to your mind any of those burdens that are particularly hard to get over. If some days you are feeling somehow less than you ought to be, then hear these words of assurance. Any community of faith must believe it has a higher purpose to exist. And if that higher purpose is only to affirm each other's best selves and help each other become their best selves, then so be it today. We need not be perfect. We need not be whole. We need not be 100% all the time. We need not even be right. But if we are together in love, then we will be beautiful in the sight of the holy. And let no one ever tell you any less. Amen for the music.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Everyone feeling all right? Good. Me too. Time to wake up. Here's some words you might not know. It is a bold practice for a preacher to select a word to preach on. One word to preach on. Compassion. It's like when you were in middle school, you had to write a theme, and you said, Webster defines this word as, and you automatically got a B. Does one word, even a word as rich as compassion, a sermon make? Because we talk a lot about compassion as a concept, as a practice, an ideal way of being, as the very center of Buddhist ideology. Any Buddhists in the room, raise your hand. Oh, no, don't. Oh, yes, you will. You don't have to, because you're a Buddhist. It's easily defined in dictionary terms, but it's easily confused with other lesser concepts like sympathy or empathy. They're functionally not the same. But before you start to think this is one of those didactic, wordy sermons and words aren't fun, I have to share with you something I've found that proves that words really are fun. Because I'm the wordiest person you know, probably, and I can learn new and bizarre words that name feelings you didn't even know had names. Maybe, unless you saw this same thing posted on the internet, which probably you did. Anyway, let me share a few of the strangest words I have found that maybe you've run across, or maybe you didn't, but here are some of the words. Now, compassion, dictionary definition, from the roots calm and pat, I guess, to be sympathetically conscious of another's distress and have a desire to alleviate it, yeah? For Buddhists, it's natural and central because they believe that existence is suffering, and yet there's serenity in this outlook, as you know. I would take Buddhism's definition of compassion as one baseline, but for Westerners, which I am, it's really a sense of relating to someone else's condition and saying, oh, it's not good, I get that, I'd like to fix it for you. However, in one weekend, let's say, we could move through many of the nuances of these compassion adjacent feelings on the way from being one soul person all by yourself to building a soul, an actual soul, something that reaches into the cosmos. So here's an example, close to compassion, but with strangers. You're driving to work, you're with the others on the road, you look over, you see an SUV, he's balancing a coffee cup, she's putting on lipstick, they're both going to work. Clearly, a wave of sonder comes over you. Sonder. That's the realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as yours. In a flash, you have sonder. Now, if you go and do your good deeds, one day you go on a habitat build, let's say, building a house for people that have no houses. Or maybe you're working at a soup kitchen one day. Your heart is full of feeling for the people you don't even know, but also monocopsis. You have the feeling of being out of place because you are out of place. These days, many people who would otherwise be very compassionate people have experienced the unsettling, ambiguous intensity of looking someone in the eye, which can feel at the same time invasive and vulnerable. And there's a word for that. It's called opia. Apparently, I do that a lot. I'm sorry if I do that to you. It does not come across as compassionate at all. It really doesn't. There's also some other compassionate adjacent feelings that prevent us. What prevents us from the pure state of compassion for our kindred? In our lives, we meet people. We want to get to know them. People maybe in your church, in your fellowship, you want to get to know them. Maybe we haven't found the right group of people. We haven't found them. They're all around us, and there's a conversation going on in which everyone is talking, but no one's listening. It's called anekdote. It's not just at cocktail parties that's going on. It's why I have trouble listening to political discourse on television or podcast. No. Everyone's talking, no one's listening. But let's say you have met people and you want to get to know them. You're with friends. You're with friends or potential friends. We wish we knew them better, but it takes so long. We're feeling adrenitis. We want to have compassion. We want to really feel compassion, but it takes so long. Adrenitis. Even with those who we love, we know we love them. We will have sometimes exulances, the tendency to give up trying to talk about our experiences. Just give up trying to talk about our experiences because people are unable to relate to them. Exulances. We give up. People just can't relate. The great mystics and religious people in the world have this all the time. They have it. They have an experience. They go to the mountain, thunder and lightning happen, or at the foot of the cross, if you're Christian. Exulances. They can't express what has happened to them. They have such powerful compassion for their fellow human beings. There are no words, so they simply feed the poor. or they shelter the outcast. Because nobody cares whether they saw God if they don't still see the holy in the faces of their kindred. Compassion for your own self is also, I'm told, a virtue. It is also something we should have. Some of those who lack this self-compassion may suffer from occasional twinges of Altschmerz, weariness with the same old issues you've always had, the same boring flaws, anxieties you've been gnawing on for years. Can I get a witness? Anybody else in the room, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Altschmerz.
Altschmerz. Altschmerz. I don't like to go to therapists. Tell me what brings you here today. Again, I have to tell you. You might be feeling a bit of Notice Tollens. The realization that the plot of your life doesn't make any sense anymore. At an age, a certain age, tell me the story of your life. I don't know, which episode are we on? Let's see, the season opener and what you might have missed, this plot. I don't really know what the story of my life is supposed to mean. Notice Tollens. Self-compassion is hard when you're not sure. Don't ask me, ask the writer. For me, the feeling is generally followed by awareness of the smallness of my perspective, which is, I have just learned, occultism. Me, universe, story of my life, occultism. There is also a anti-self-compassion. Here's the word. Marabartarachite. A strange urge to push people away, even close friends who you really like. You can achieve this just by saying that word. I'm going to say it again. Marabartarachite. I didn't say it right, did I? I have no idea. Anybody German here? May I? Would you mind?
Mauerbauer Traurigkeit.
God, thank you. Mauerbauer Traurigkeit. Close?
I've never heard it before.
See? But maybe you don't have that strange urge to push people away, even close friends who you really like. You may have this. At the same time, you have liberosis, which is the desire to care less about things. I wish I cared less. You know, the saying is, I could not care less. But everybody says it wrong, and they say, I could care less. Maybe that's what they really mean. I could care less, but I don't. I care more. Again, that word.
Mauerbauer Traurigkeit.
Thank you. Something of an antonym for self-compassion. And being a little bit of a science fiction buff, I'm familiar with this one. I have a sense of enouement, the bittersweetness of having arrived in the future, seeing how things turn out, but not being able to tell your past self. Turn back. Take the vacation. Don't worry so much, but get the checkup. All those feelings, compassion adjacent feelings, probably some of the words you knew, probably all of you have felt those feelings from time to time. I like to know the words for things. I like naming things. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it helps us learn to grow from being soul beings all by ourselves to soulful beings, to persons who can live together through the power of words and faith in something more than just what we see in the mirror in the moment. I'm hard to help, I've been told. I know it now, I own it. My adult children call me on it when necessary. Nevertheless, I will give help when I can, as specifically as possible, because I think that's the best way. Compassion in its colloquial, everyday, most meaningful sense is caring with as much as caring about. I care with people. It's not the golden rule, it's the platinum rule. It's the platinum rule. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Feeling with and being on behalf of, not feeling in place of, or presuming to know what others are feeling when we ourselves hardly know what we're feeling most of the time. If someone is hungry, you can empathize. You can say, I see that you're hungry. I do understand. Very nice. That's empathy. They're still hungry. Someone is hungry. You can have sympathy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I have sympathy for you. I'm sad for you. Now everybody's comforting you. They're still hungry. Someone's hungry and starving. You can say, here's $1. Don't spend it on crack. That's just mean. But if somebody's hurting and hungry and sick, and you notice this and it bothers you that someone else is in discomfort, maybe you can have compassion. Help them get something to eat and help them find a way to get another meal later. That's compassion. And Jesus would be proud. So would the Buddha, so would the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, and Zoroaster, and Emerson, Albert Schweitzer, Mother Teresa, and that guy who goes under a bridge every morning, makes peanut butter sandwiches, give them to the homeless. And all the other good and decent prophets and reformers and daydreamers. You may say, you people in the room, you're spiritual but not religious, but I say unto you, if you see someone hungry and you give them a sandwich, or you take some of the money that you foolishly put into that bowl every time you get together and support an Austin organization that helps the homeless and friendless, and probably they give someone a sandwich, and if meanwhile you give thanks to the cosmos that you have a sandwich to give, then you are building a soul out of your solitary selves, making some kind of magic here that nobody understands, supernatural act, a belief in a higher good that is compassion, and that is truly religious as a human being can become. And what do you know? That word isn't even on the list. I would like for you, please, if you're willing and able, to stand for a moment. Because the other part of having compassion is that we stand for something. We stand for each other. We stand for love. And I'm done talking for now. I would just ask you to stand for the closing song. Stand with each other. Stand with me. Stand with those who wish to have a soul.
When the night has come and the land is dark. When the night has come, and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, won't you stand by me? Just as long
Stand by me.
as you
Stand by me.
stand by me. Just as long as you stand by me.
If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, all the mountains should crumble to the sea. I won't cry. I won't cry. No, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
By me.
Oh,
Just as long
stand by me.
as you
Stand by me.
stand by me.
Just as long as you stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
Won't you stay just as long? Just as long. Stand by me.
Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me?
Oh, won't you stay
Stand by me.
just as long
Stand by me.
as you stand
Stand by me.
by me. Just as long as you stand by me.
Oh, stand by me.
Oh, you stand by me.
Oh,
Just as long
stand by me.
as you
Stand by me.
stand by me.
Just as long as you stand by me. Just as long as you stand.
Share dancing.
So darling, stand
That's right.
by me. Oh, stand by me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Just as long
Stand by
as you
Stand by
stand by me.
Oh, stand by
Won't you stay just as long?
Just as long.
Just as long. Stand by me.
Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me? Won't you stand by me?
He's dancing in his heart.
Stand by.
As you stand by me.
Just as long as you stand
Great.
by me.
Listen, Jordan. Hey. And now let your all hearts go standing by one another and everyone you meet in the world, because everybody you meet is going through a hard time. And I will say to you as a benediction and a blessing, remember, everything will be all right in the end. And if it isn't all right, it means it's not the end. Let the people all say, amen.